It is Tuesday, and we are still basking in the glow of a very rare Carolina Panthers victory here in the state of North Carolina. It's the Desmond Johnson Show here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, tobaccoroadsportsradio.com. Make sure you follow us at our YouTube channel, youtube.com/at Tobacco Road Sports Radio. David Glenn from the North Carolina Sports Network in with me every other week, and a great week for him to be in. We've got a Panthers win to discuss versus the Falcons. We're taking on the Patriots on Sunday at 1 o'clock on Fox. We've got some ACC football notes we need to get to, and a lot more here on the Desmond Johnson Show. Let's go ahead and get everything going. Let's go ahead and roll that.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
Yeah, welcome to the Carolinas. Everywhere you go, the sky is Carolina blue, the finest. Live action, feedback, the city needs that. I've been number one, no cap. Here's the recap. Adrenaline is my addiction. I'm about to relapse. Step on the turf if you won't and get your weed whacked. I'm going harder than a martyr on the starter end. It's the heart of man, that's a rap like a cardigan. I'm breaking records, it's fourth and inches, I count the seconds. The over-under's my roar of thunder, my secret weapon. Yeah, the game is to be told. I don't break, I break modes. Follow me on Tobacco Road.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
And welcome into the Desmond Johnson Show here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. You can catch us every Tuesday and Wednesday live at 12:30 p.m. During your lunch break. And you can catch our NFL Roundtable every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. on WWBG 1470 a.m. out in Greensboro. And, of course, online at tobaccoroadsportsradio.com. DG, I prepped you a little bit right before we came on, and I forgot to mention something that I wanted to lead off the show with, and that was to give a shout-out to head coach Sean Clark's family, former App State head coach for 5 seasons. He took over after the 2019 season, died unexpectedly Sunday. He had been admitted into a hospital September 9th for undisclosed medical emergency. And by all accounts, he had been doing better and then passed away suddenly on Sunday. Through your travels throughout the state of North Carolina, covering App State and other teams here, I'm sure you and Coach Clark had multiple interviews and things of that sort. I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about your relationship with Coach Clark and the loss of the App State family and the UCF family as well.
Yeah, thanks for that, Des. My business partner at the North Carolina Sports Network, Mike Waddell, is actually a very, very close friend of the Clark family, and especially Sean Clark, because they were together at App State many years ago when Coach Clark was a star offensive lineman for the Mountaineers. So my condolences, of course, go out to the whole Clark family, everybody who has known them. I considered Coach a friend as well. And at times like this, I've often thought about the idea of how rare it is to be great at what you choose to do for a living. In Coach Clark's case, football generally, but mentoring young people, being a coach, et cetera, more specifically. And if you can say about someone that they were both outstanding at what they chose to do for a living, but they were an even better human being while doing it, to me, that's about as big as compliments get in our time here on earth. And I know that Sean Clark fits that description. It's a horrible story. He was only 50 years old. I mean, that's my rough age bracket. He was a married man with 2 younger children. So my heart just goes out for them. They have lost not just a dad, but just an incredible role model and a loving human being. So it's just a sad time. I mean, there are no magical words at times like this other than supporting the family the best we can and trying to remember a truly great man in all the appropriate ways.
Well put. And I'm with you. I'm 47, so it's around the same age as me. So when you see that kind of stuff happen and the way it happened unexpectedly, it just kind of reminds us all life is short. Enjoy it while you can. Value the things to value while you can. And by all accounts, Coach Clark was definitely a family man first. And I've seen how it's affected multiple people in the media world, in terms of just having to deal with this. I never got a chance to talk to Coach Clark or interview him during that stretch of time. We weren't doing a lot of App State coverage, so I wasn't really able to talk to him as much as I would have liked to. But by all accounts, from what I saw from afar, Definitely a coach that you want to play for. Definitely a person you want to have as a friend in your life. So our condolences to the Clark family, the App State family, the University of Central Florida family, and anybody else that's affected by Sean Clark's sudden passing. I want to get over to the NFL, of course, and the Panthers. We, of course, DG, we've been going through it the past 6 or 7 years with this Carolina Panther franchise, and Sunday felt more like a cathartic win for the state, like for the diehards, because the final straw, I think, was a couple days prior. Steve Smith, his comments on WFNZ about the city of Charlotte and weak fans and fair weather fans and all this kind of stuff, kind of got the fans riled up. Got the fans riled up a bit about it, me included, because I'm like, no, we're here every week. We just don't want to waste our Sundays. Like, don't waste our time. And that's how we were starting to feel. Sunday felt like a turning of the page, sort of. It was completely different than the first 2 weeks of the season. They didn't give the ball over. They didn't turn the ball over the first 8 minutes of the game, so that helps. And they actually were flying around. It felt like 2017, 2015, when there were actually good, competent Panther teams out there. What did you leave that game, Panthers-Falcons, thinking about the future of the Panthers? Did you feel like it was a one-off and they just, ran into a team that just was playing poorly? Or did you see elements that made you feel like, hey, some of the stuff they've been working on, habit-forming type things, it feels like it's starting to work. Like, it feels like they're starting to do the things that Coach Canales says every week in his press conferences. How did you leave that game after watching it, and how did you feel about the Panthers going forward?
Yeah, primarily, I think it's time to celebrate that defense, because this is a group that gave up the most points in NFL history in a single season a year ago. Not the exact same personnel, but some of the same players. And if you want to win with Bryce Young as your quarterback and Chuba Hubbard as your running back and sort of a balanced offense and grinded out type victories, well, of course, you need to play good defense for the puzzle pieces to fit together. And good defense was not something we saw often over the last few years, but it was great defense against Atlanta. When you look at that final score, remember, it feels like about half of those 30 or so points or more were set up by short fields for the offense, meaning the Carolina Panthers defense either set up a punt deep in Atlanta's territory, or they created a turnover setting up a short field for Bryce Young in the offense, or in one case, Chow Wade Smith. I mean, you want to talk about a story worth building upon. We know what J.C. Horn can do. We believe we know what the new signee, Trayvon Merrick, can do at safety. If you can have a young guy that you picked up, what was it, in the 5th round, who had some good things in college, but some worried about his competition, but then he showed up at, I think it was the Senior Bowl, and did really good against other college all-stars. You get him in the 5th round. He was a playmaker in college. This is only one example, but a pick 6 against Michael Penix of the Atlanta Falcons in what could have been a close ball game, that's as big as it gets. So that defense has to feel confident. Of course, its star player on the defensive front is back after missing almost the entire season, to injury in the disaster of a year ago. So now you have several building blocks on the defensive side of the ball. That doesn't mean the Panthers are going to be a playoff team this year. It could mean that they're going to be a much more competitive team. And man, doesn't Bryce Young look a lot more relaxed when he's got a little lead or he's got a shorter field? He doesn't feel the weight of the world on his shoulders on every possession.
Yeah, definitely. It helps when you don't turn the ball over twice in the first 8 minutes of the game and create a 10-0 hole every week. This is the first week I got a chance to really see the Panthers kind of start to show an identity of some sort, because we didn't really know what it was, because they were playing from behind the first 2 weeks of the season, and you can't have Bryce Young throwing the ball 55 times in a game. That's just not a recipe for success for Carolina. However, I'm looking at their games going forward, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but they've got the Pats on Sunday. Then they have Miami, the Jets, Dallas that just got curb stomped by Chicago on Sunday for some. Well, I know the reason they don't play defense in Dallas for some reason, but the schedule becomes kind of manageable for the Panthers. Now, some of those are on the road, but I feel like it could be a building block for the rest of the season. And I'm with you. I'm not close enough to say, oh, they're going to make the playoffs and blah, blah, blah for one game. And Atlanta's got some stuff to work on themselves. Both the quarterbacks were pretty much rattled all day because of the Panther defense that was flying around all over the place. I said it on Believe in Panthers in our post-game show Sunday. I need to give Evero his flowers, because I've been really rough on him the first couple of weeks of the season. Did not see the defense the way it was. I do not believe in a 3-4 for the Panthers. It felt like they weren't really in a 3-4 most of Sunday. They were kind of in a 4-man front and only sent for most of Sunday and didn't get a sack, but they rattled Penix Jr. and Kirk Cousins to the point where their timing was off. They had to get the ball out faster. They had to throw it someplace where there was nobody there, that kind of thing. And I'd rather have that. I was having a conversation with somebody where they were saying, well, they didn't get any sacks in the game. And I'm like, yeah, but they got 3 turnovers. Would you rather have 3 turnovers or 3 sacks? And that's kind of like, yeah, I guess you got a point there. I'll take a 3 turnover, no sack game every day of the week, instead of just getting 3 sacks and we lose by 14. So the Panthers will be taking on the Patriots on Sunday, 1:00 on Fox. Brand new Believe in Panthers episode with former NFL wide receiver Chris Hogan and co-host of Believe in Patriots will be dropping a little bit later on today, which is that this morning. I want to shift over to college football real quick. And this is kind of a hot pocket edition of the Desmond Johnson show here on a Tuesday. I wanted to pick your brain. For starters, let's talk about the announcement coming out of Charlotte on Monday that the ACC will be moving to a 9-game conference schedule, joining the other Power 4 leagues and going to non-conference games. Now, league teams will be required to play 10 Power 4 games. Most of the teams in the ACC will start playing non-conference games plus 1 Power 4 in 2026, which will be next year. Multiple ACC teams have return non-conference or neutral site games scheduled for next year. Florida, Alabama, Clemson at LSU, SMU at Baylor, Duke will be at Illinois, Georgia Tech will be at Colorado, North Carolina, TCU will be in Dublin, Ireland, and Virginia, West Virginia, and Charlotte. This will allow them to compete with the ACC, or excuse me, not with the ACC, but with the other 3 Power 4 conferences. The Big 12 and Big 10 have already been at 9. Kind of the domino was the SEC going to 9 themselves, and that pushed ACC forward. Thoughts on the ACC making this move to 9 conference games plus a Power 4?
Yeah, like most things we followed in college sports over the last couple of decades, follow the money. This is not just a coincidence. The ACC has been trailing in terms of TV money. They want to be more relevant in football. They want to be in bigger spotlights in football. And just to paint a wider picture, if an ACC team plays a cupcake, an FCS opponent, someone that they're expected to dominate, there might be only hundreds of thousands of viewers of that game via TV and streaming. When you get an ACC team playing another Power 4 team or playing each other as ACC members, you're typically going to have an audience in 7 figures, 1 million or more. And if it's a really good matchup, it could be 3 million, 5 million, 7 million, 9 million viewers, 10 million plus in the very biggest cases. So just think about that. You could have 10 times or more as many viewers because of the type of opponent you're putting on your schedule. So now we know that moving forward, 10 out of 12 regular season games for every ACC team will be against a Power 4 opponent. That's designed to make the league money in television. That's designed to put the league in all the right spotlights and to rebrand the ACC, if they win enough of those intersectional games, as something more than a second-tier league. It's easier said than done, but that's the motivation behind doing this as you're kind of looking around, seeing if the other 3 Power 4 conferences are all going to do the same. As of now, it's only, I think, the ACC and the SEC that have promised to go down that road, both of them, of course, being ESPN's primary TV partner.
Yeah, and shout out to ESPN. I was a little skeptical at first when I bought the package. I have the ESPN Unlimited package. Of course, ESPN now is a over-the-top app that you can just pay ESPN directly for. The ESPN Disney Hulu bundle, I think I have right now $30, but you literally get everything. I saw people complaining, I'm not going to pay $30 for a WWE pay-per-view. I'm like, well, you're not. You're paying for that. Plus ACC Network, SEC Network, pretty much every college basketball, football game you can imagine, baseball, everything. I mean, like everything you can imagine is pretty much on ESPN, right? Including WWE. Like you're paying $30 a month for all of that, not just for one event. So I hope people keep that in mind. Staying in the ACC, we got to talk about the Clemson Tigers and actually North Carolina Tar Heels too. Who do you think is more in trouble, Clemson or UNC? UNC losing, I think it was 34-9 to UCF, a team I became familiar with a couple of weeks ago. I produced North Carolina A&T versus UCF, and UCF put out like 4 of the A&T quarterbacks during that game. Hence Sean Gibbs' infamous money game quote from a couple weeks ago. And then Clemson falling at home to Syracuse. I know you picked Clemson to win the ACC. That seems like a pipe dream at this point now. How surprised are you at both of these teams, and which one do you think's in more trouble?
Yeah, I'm not surprised at what's happening with the Tar Heels. I tried to tell Carolina fans all summer long, just the first team, not the whole tenure. The first Bill Belichick team at Carolina has ordinary talent by ACC standards. There are not a lot of NFL prospects on that team, and the offense is predictably bad. Their starting quarterback didn't even arrive, Gio Lopez, until after spring practice. So he's, learning the offense while on the practice field in the month of August, which is a recipe for disaster. And Carolina, against its 3 FBS opponents, has averaged 14 points per game. That is as bad as it gets in modern college football, and one of the worst numbers among the 136 teams at the FBS level. So I don't know how much better they can get offensively at Carolina. We'll see if the backup quarterback, Max Johnson, can energize things. Gio Lopez was hurt against UCF. So I'm not surprised by the Tar Heels struggles at all. I am definitely surprised by Clemson's struggles. It's hard to explain all the elements that have gone into that, but I will say that 3 key players missed the entire first 3 weeks of the season. Starting left tackle, star wide receiver Antonio Williams, and a starting safety. That's a part of it. But Cade Klubnik, a guy that some scouts were talking about as a possible first-round NFL draft pick, hasn't even been an average ACC quarterback, much less an above-average one, or a star the way he was for much of last season. So when you add all those pieces together, Clemson's actually a pretty talented, solid defensive football team. But like the Tar Heels, the pieces just are not fitting together offensively. And remember, Clemson's not only 1-3, the one win was a struggle against Troy at Death Valley.
Yeah.
So it's funny, the 2 schools in this 17-team ACC that I would say are most in crisis mode, because Virginia Tech already fired its coach and Stanford has an interim coach, so I'll put those 2 aside. But it's the Tigers and the Tar Heels. They both have this week off, and they play each other a week from Saturday. So my guess is the Tigers have a better chance of salvaging something out of the season. But Des, there was, I think, 6 straight years that Dabo Swinney and the Tigers finished in the national top 5. 6 years in a row where your end of season ranking was top 5. This is now 5 years in a row where the Clemson Tigers will not be in the top 10 or even near the top 10. So it's a downward theme for Clemson over 5 years now. They've still won 8 of the last 10 ACC titles, but that 6-year run prior to this was as good as it's gotten in the history of the ACC almost. This more recent trend, I don't have any questions about Dabo Swinney in terms of the bigger picture, but certainly a lot of Clemson fans got spoiled by that success, and they just can't imagine the possibility of the first, 5-loss season in Dabo Swinney's 18 years with the Tigers.
That was actually going to be my question. Where's the tipping point here with Dabo and the Clemson faithful? When does he officially become on the hot seat? Like if they say they go and they lose to Carolina and they're 1-4, to Dabo's point, he's like, you guys don't like winning. They've won 8 out of the past 10 years. All the stats you just rattled off and everything about Clemson basically owning the ACC for the better part of the decade. But it's what have you done for me lately in terms of college football in particular? How much of a hot seat is he on? And do you kind of equate this to Dabo kind of not leaning into the whole transfer portal NIL thing? I'm sure Clemson players get paid, but he's been an advocate for not using the portal more so than a lot of other head coaches around the league. And we've seen this in college basketball where even spots like UNC, they were kind of reluctant to get into that game, thinking they could still live off the name and the brand and everything else. That feels like where Clemson is now in football, where they feel like they had built their name up to the point where they don't need the portal. They'll get the best recruits and Dabo will coach them up and it'll be, rinse, wash, repeat. It's not really working that way as they look across the ACC and see Florida State rebuilds their roster in one off season. They had like one of their worst seasons ever last year. And now they're sitting in the top 10. Miami's used the portal. They're at number 4. I think I hadn't checked the AP poll this week. I don't know if they went up or not, but they were at 4 last week. And they seem to be running away with the ACC. Can't leave out NC State, who's used the transfer portal to a T, bringing a lot of former North Carolina prep players that got recruited highly, went off to other schools, and then ended up here back in the state of North Carolina at NC State. Hollywood Smothers, Noah Rogers. They've got guys that played prep football in North Carolina and then went to Ohio State, and Hollywood Smothers went to, I think, Oklahoma to begin with, and then now they're playing at NC State, and NC State's 4-0. What do you think the tipping point is for Clemson fans here? They might have already passed it, because I don't think any of them expected to be 1-3 and struggling to beat Troy, like you mentioned, at home. That's it. Just feels like they're not good for some reason. I don't understand why. Like, how do they trick us? Like, what like, what happened here? Like, why is this bottom falling out here for them?
Well, I'll put it this way, and this applies to both Bill Belichick at Carolina and Dabo Swinney at Clemson. When I use the term hot seat, I interpret that as, is a coach in jeopardy with his own administration, the university president, the athletic director. And there is a 0% chance that Dabo Swinney is in jeopardy or Bill Belichick is in jeopardy with their administrations. Now, are people mad in both fan bases? Would somebody emotional on message boards and social media want to fire Dabo Swinney or Bill Belichick? Of course, that crazy. But it's completely irrelevant, because Clemson knows what it has in Dabo Swinney, and Bill Belichick is only in year one at UNC. Now, I will say that at Carolina, given how badly the offense has performed, Freddie Kitchens, the offensive coordinator, that's somebody who might be on the hot seat in the eyes of his own coach, Bill Belichick. And remember, Dabo Swinney hired Garrett Riley, brother of Lincoln Riley, the Southern Cal head coach. That's Clemson's offensive coordinator. Well, Garrett Riley's had 3 years with Cade Klubnik. You're supposed to be better by the time you're a senior. And Garrett Riley arrived from TCU. Remember, he was part of that team that played in the national championship game. That's one of the reasons there was so much hype about Lincoln Riley's brother Garrett jumping to Clemson, because he helped the Horned Frogs in their prolific offense all the way to the national title game at a school you never expect to be there. Could they re-examine Garrett Riley as the offensive coordinator at Clemson, just like Freddie Kitchens at Carolina, at the end of the season, or at Carolina's case, even before then? We'll see. But those coordinators being on hot seats are a lot different. Bill Belichick is going to be given more time to build through the recruiting trail, and Dabo has to revisit. Maybe he will, maybe he won't, but I would advise him to revisit his transfer portal philosophy. You said it well. Miami, Florida State, Louisville, others, man, when they anticipate a problem on the depth chart, they go out and find, some fifth-year senior and a potential weak spot. Hey, I'm going to get this guy who's started 30 games for some other school. We don't have to wonder whether he was good. He was all conference at his last school, right? Dabo has resisted that for the most part, and I do think, along with the injuries we mentioned, it's coming back to haunt him. But he's a loyalty guy, and you know how that can go. Loyalty can be one of the strengths of your program. Why do those players love him so much and play hard for him? Loyalty is a big reason for that. And when you don't have as many transfers, you have more loyalty in your locker room. There's a downside to that approach. And right now, Dabo's living that downside in pretty ugly ways.
It does feel like with the shift in college football has shifted to that, where over half of the majority of like the top 25 rosters are 4-year, 5-year guys that transferred over. They've played 3 years someplace else. They've got experience. And talking to head coaches throughout the week, they tell me, it's easier for me to go find a junior somewhere that's just like 4th or 5th on the depth chart at Ohio State, and they're just looking for a chance to play. It's easier for me to bring them in than it is to bring in a top 5 or a top 5-star high school recruit and hope they can take the next level. Like, he would rather have that 3-star guy that's a junior that knows what they're doing than a 5-star kid that may or may not even adapt to college football. And a lot of times it's less expensive too. So I can kind of see the logic, but with Clemson, it almost feels like they're like where Carolina basketball was like 2 or 3 years ago, where they were still clinging to bringing recruits in and showing them the banners and the rafters and everything, is assuming the name would assign these guys and they could build off these young teams. most of the teams that have won the national championship the past couple of years have been older teams, really since the portal opened. Even back when Carolina was last in the national championship against Kansas, that was an older Kansas team. That was an older Carolina team playing against them. So, I mean, it feels like that's the new way to go, and I'm glad that Carolina's kind of shifted that way with what they've done behind the scenes in terms of positions and stuff to kind of get NIL in order. It sounds like Clemson might have to do the same thing. It's not like they're broke. They're sitting on pretty good amount of money in terms of what they could do. It's just a matter of philosophy at this point. And with these other teams, Miami and Florida State, any one of those, do you feel like they're national champion contenders? Because I think Georgia Tech did crack the top 25, but Miami's in the top 5. They're number 4. Matter of fact, they pulled 8 people. Do you think Miami and Florida State have a good shot to contend for the national championship from what you've seen so far?
I'd be surprised if the Seminoles did. I don't know if Tommy Castellanos, the new Seminoles quarterback, is that good. Crazy good athlete, great with his feet. I want to see him throw the ball downfield against better competition. We'll see if it unfolds that way. The good news for the ACC is that there is some depth. Even with Clemson falling by the wayside, Miami's a legitimately good football team. I actually think that the Hurricanes are more well-rounded than they were a year ago when they put up those nice records for most of the season, because Cam Ward, now with the Tennessee Titans, was winning games, 52-45 and pulling rabbits out of his hat. This Miami team can win some with defense and with offense, and that makes it more dangerous to me. And you mentioned Georgia Tech, right? I mean, the ACC title game with Clemson already off to the side, Florida State and Miami, you remember the old joke 20 years ago when the Hurricanes joined the ACC and there was a divisional format. A lot of people thought, oh my gosh, the Hurricanes, who had recently won a national title in 2001, the Canes and the Noles are going to be in the ACC title game every year. Mm-hmm. That's what they said 20 years ago. Hasn't happened yet in 20 years. It could happen this year. But Georgia Tech is a legitimate candidate. I even think for now, Louisville and maybe even others they're still candidates. But with Clemson losing twice in conference play, it's hard to make the ACC title game if you're 6-2, and even getting to 6-2 obviously would be very difficult for the Tigers given who they still have to play.
Yeah, I can't imagine from what I've seen from Clemson the past couple of weeks that they're going to be able to do that. I just went over to check the AP poll that got released on really Sunday night. Ohio State's still number 1. Miami's moved up to number 2. Actually moved up 2 spots to number 2, and they actually play at Florida State this weekend at 7:30 p.m. I believe that's the ABC night game. So Miami and Florida State getting after it this Saturday. Florida State dropped a spot to number 8.
I don't think they play each other this Saturday.
No, that's next week. I'm sorry, not this
Florida State. Florida State has a Friday night game at UVA.
Yeah,
and that could be fun on national TV because UVA, while not great, this is the best of Tony Elliott's four teams in Charlottesville, and they're 3-1, the Cavaliers. So undefeated FSU at 3-1 UVA. We'll see how it shakes out on national TV on Friday. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. Thank you for correcting me there. Florida State ranked number 8 going into this at Virginia. That's a Friday night game at 7:00 p.m. I'm still against college football playing on Friday nights. This is the high school football purist in me, but that's okay. And then the following week, we might have a top 8 battle if Florida State moves up a couple more slots after Virginia, maybe even a top 5 battle. Well, they're not going to skip. Unless Georgia, Oregon, and Oklahoma all lose, which I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know. Oregon's playing at Penn State. And
that's a whopper of a game right there.
Georgia's hosting Alabama.
LSU has Ole Miss. There's some big ball games.
Yeah, some big ones. Yeah, Ohio State's at Washington this week in Big Ten. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened.
That's all right.
I looked
got
up
you,
and
man.
everything just went down. Like my internet must have just crashed briefly or something. But terribly sorry about that. I was at the end, so
Yeah.
thank you for waiting. Yeah, so we're gonna get out of here. Everybody else, get out of your lunch break, head back to work, get back to the cubicles or whatnot. We'll be back tomorrow. Mark Pruitt from the Winston-Salem Journal will help preview our top 3 high school football games in the Tri this upcoming Friday. Kind of slim pickings for Sept County is completely on a bye this upcoming week. Although I think Mount Tabor is playing, but they're completely on a bye. So our game of the week is the Grimsley game on WCOG that might get streamed on WTOB. Also, we'll have some info about that tomorrow. So we'll have Mark on then, and then of course catch our Saturday roundtable. We'll be previewing NFL football with the host from Winning the Division from the Fan First Sports Network. And my partner, Rod Funderburk, will be in the house as well. And we'll preview the Panthers taking on the Patriots and a whole lot more on the NFL side. DG will be back in 2 weeks, as he is every other week here with us on the Desmond Johnson Show. And we're going to end it there. We will see you guys live Wednesday at 12:30 p.m.